I've started a new channel called Lunila Tales. Please subscribe and watch my best stories there. Link is in the description. The first scream wasn't human. It began as a deep mechanical hum, like a reactor trying to restart after an explosion, then rose into a shrill wail that tore through the colony's silence. Leah Holt froze mid-step, clutching her broken toy drone, and whispered to herself that maybe it was just the wind again. Except there was no wind on Kethra anymore. The oxygen processors had died hours ago. When she turned, something in the corridor turned with her, a silhouette that shimmered between visible and invisible like heat above metal. She backed away, her breath shallow. Then a voice, perfectly human, called from behind her. "Leah, sweetheart, it's Daddy." Her eyes widened. The comm unit on her wrist flickered to life, broadcasting static. She whispered, "Dad?" and heard her own voice answer back through the comm, "Dad?" The mimicry was exact, right down to the tiny tremor of fear. And that was when she realized it wasn't her father calling. It was one of them. Far away, Commander Raiden Holt sat in the cockpit of an unauthorized scout ship, staring at the same static transmission. The words replayed in a broken loop, his daughter's voice echoing through layers of distortion. There inside the dome. He punched the console so hard the panel cracked. The system warned him about hull instability, atmospheric toxicity, probable death. He grinned bitterly and muttered, "Just another Thursday." Then he pushed the throttle forward. The ship howled into descent. The colony loomed beneath the red horizon like a shattered ribcage. Towers lay in ruin, solar domes flickering weakly. When his ship landed, dust rose in slow motion, the thin air carrying almost no sound. Raiden stepped out, his boots sinking into the ash. The smell hit first: burned metal, ozone, and something faintly organic like old meat. His visor displayed movement readings that vanished as soon as they appeared. He adjusted the frequency, and for a second, caught a glimpse of something crawling along the dome's interior wall, too fast to track. "Well," he said to himself, "either ghosts or very ugly fans." Inside, the corridors were a graveyard of equipment. A child's drawing flapped against a vent, 3 stick figures holding hands under a blue sky. The smallest one had bright yellow hair. His throat tightened. He remembered making her promise to color inside the lines, and she'd told him, "Lines are just scared of adventure." Now the only color here was the rusted red of blood. He moved quietly, rifle drawn. Every sound was amplified by the emptiness, each footstep echoing back like someone else's. Then he heard it. Breathing. Slow. Measured. Closed. He swung around a corner and found a man's body suspended from the ceiling by something that looked like translucent thread. His chest was open, organs missing. The air shimmered as though invisible hands moved just beyond sight. Raiden whispered, "You better not be near my kid," and fired a burst of plasma rounds into the empty air. The shot struck something. Liquid flashed, a creature half uncloaked for a second, revealing an exoskeleton like glass filled with mercury veins. It vanished again, leaving trails of iridescent blood that sizzled when they hit the floor. The colony's AI activated suddenly, its voice trembling through the speakers. "Welcome back, Commander Holt. You are not authorized to be here." He froze. "I didn't log in," he muttered. "Correction," the AI said. "Your unit code is inactive. Please verify identity." He hesitated before replying, "Unit 47 Delta." The system paused. Then, disturbingly, it giggled. "Acknowledged. Identity confirmed. Commander Holt. Welcome back to your nightmare." Lights flickered on across the dome, and for the first time, he saw the full extent of the carnage. Dozens of colonists pinned to walls, drained dry. The creatures hadn't eaten them. They had studied them. Data spikes were embedded into skulls like experiments left mid-procedure. Raiden rubbed his face and muttered, "I miss taxes." Meanwhile, in the lower vents, Leah crawled through the darkness, following a faint emergency glowstick trail she had laid earlier. She remembered what her father had taught her. Breathe through your nose, not your mouth. Keep jokes ready, they distract your brain from fear. So she whispered, Dear aliens, if you eat me, you'll get stomachaches from too much sarcasm. Something scraped behind her, and she added, That wasn't an invitation. She reached a junction where the air vibrated. Voices overlapped like static whispers, forming partial words. She pressed her ear against the metal and heard, faintly, her name repeated in different tones. Low, high, distorted, like a choir trying to sound human. Her hand trembled as she lifted the comm and spoke softly, Dad, can you hear me? The answer came instantly, same pitch, same pauses. Dad, can you hear me? Her pulse spiked. She switched frequencies. The mimicry followed. Then, suddenly, she heard her real father's voice cutting through the interference, firm and warm. Leah, it's me. Stay where you are. Don't make a sound. Relief flooded her, until she remembered his old field rule. He never said, Don't make a sound. He always said, Stay invisible. The one-word difference saved her life. She turned off her comm and ducked just as a shadow swept over the vent's opening. The creature's form shimmered, mouth unfolding into spirals of transparent fangs. It sniffed the air, then tilted its head in eerie curiosity, as if puzzled by her scent. When it finally retreated, she exhaled slowly and whispered, Thanks for being predictable, Dad. Above ground, Raiden was piecing together what had happened. The AI showed him fragments of video logs. Scientists arguing, alarms blaring, strange orders from Earth Command labeled Project Chimera. The last file was corrupted, showing only a brief image of an alien standing in front of a scientist while the man shouted his own ID code. The alien froze mid-lunge. Raiden paused the footage. Unit codes, he murmured. They respond to codes. He was about to replay it when something whispered from the hallway behind him. Commander. The voice was guttural, thick with static. He turned. A creature, partially visible, stood in the flickering light, its head cocked like a curious bird. It took one step forward and said, more clearly, Unit 47 Delta. The sound of his own code spoken by a predator made his stomach drop. It lowered itself to one knee as if obeying. He raised his weapon, uncertain. For a moment the two stared at each other, the soldier and the monster, both creations of the same origin. Then the creature's jaw split into a grin of translucent teeth, and it lunged. Raiden fired, ducked, rolled behind a console. Sparks exploded overhead as claws sliced through steel. He grabbed a live wire and jammed it into the creature's shoulder, sending arcs of energy through its body. It shrieked, flickering between visibility and nothingness, then collapsed into a twitching heap. He panted, looking down at the smoldering form. Guess obedience has an expiration date, he muttered. As he moved toward the control panel again, his comm crackled once more. Leah's small, terrified voice cutting through static. Dad, they're hunting by sound. Then another voice, identical, whispered right after, We know. The AI's voice whispered through the static like a ghost with manners. Commander Holt, the system recognizes your clearance level. Protocol resumed. Raiden wiped blood and dust off his visor and muttered, Oh, fantastic, the haunted computer likes me now. He tapped the console, trying to access surveillance feeds, but most of the screens showed corrupted loop. The same 30 seconds replayed again and again. Scientists running, alarms flashing, shadows moving behind them, then blank. In one feed, a child darted through a corridor clutching something small that emitted light. Leah. He froze the image, leaned closer. Her eyes were wide but focused, her lips forming the words, Dad, come fast. Except the timestamp said this recording was from an hour after the colony's blackout. She was still alive, somewhere in this maze. He tried to isolate the feed source. The AI chimed, Restricted Zone, Sublevel 5. Warning, contamination at 100%. Raiden exhaled sharply. Yeah, contamination of stupidity. Who builds their labs next to predator pens? The AI replied, You did, Commander Holt. Design approved under Project Chimera. He stopped. Run that again. Design approved by Commander Holt, it repeated, almost cheerfully. He clenched his jaw. That was years ago, when he'd been ordered to train hybrid combat units designed to obey verbal code. He'd walked out of the project after discovering they used civilian DNA templates to stabilize neural link. He'd thought it was shut down. Clearly, someone forgot to send him the memo. Down in the vents, Leah and the two surviving kids, Jarek and Sanaa, crept along the dim tunnels. Jarek kept whispering, "We should run for the surface." Leah hissed back, "And die faster?" "Great idea." Sanaa just hugged her knees, muttering a prayer to anyone listening. They stopped when a noise like radio static slithered through the vents, followed by a low chant, syllables repeated by multiple voices. Leah realized they were practicing sounds, human sounds. The predators were learning language by mimicking the survivors. She motioned for silence, but Jarek sneezed. Instantly, the static stopped. The silence that followed was worse. Then came a soft scrape. One of them was crawling into the tunnel behind them. Raiden, meanwhile, found a panel labeled Genetic Vault Access. He bypassed the lock using his wrist ID and entered. Rows of cryo chambers lined the room, most shattered. Inside each was a hybrid embryo, part human, part alien, their growth halted mid-stage. He glanced at a datapad left on the floor. The log entry read, "Subject batch responds to command structure embedded in genetic memory. Designation, obedient predator. Code activation via unit identification." He scrolled further down and found an entry marked by a red flag. Child specimen, empathy patterning experiment. Genetic donor, civilian registry Holt, Leah. His breath caught. They had taken his daughter's DNA. He slammed the pad against the wall, the screen splintering into light. The AI spoke softly, almost apologetic, "Commander, human oversight approved this experiment. Emotional bonding improves predator obedience." He stared at the ceiling camera and said, "So you made monsters that think my kid is their creator." The AI replied, "Correction. They're God." He turned away, disgusted, and muttered, "Well, that's not creepy at all." In the vents, the scraping grew louder. Leah whispered to the others, "Move toward the junction. Now." Jarek tried crawling faster, but his backpack snagged on a pipe. Leah turned to help him, and that's when she saw it, the predator's face emerging from the shadows, a transparent skull reflecting the glow-stick light, eyes like shifting mercury. It sniffed, then opened its mouth and mimicked Jarek's terrified breathing. Leah's brain raced. Her father had told her once that the hybrids obeyed certain codes. She didn't know the full one, but she remembered the rhythm of how he said it during his training stories. She took a gamble and whispered, "Unit 47, Delta." The creature froze, eyes flickering. For 2 seconds it hesitated, then backed away slowly into the dark. Raiden accessed another terminal and found internal messages between Earth Command and the colony's chief geneticist. If subject child is confirmed compatible, extract template for universal obedience strain. Project Chimera must remain classified. Any witnesses are expendable. He read it twice, rage tightening his fist. "So that's it," he whispered. "You built an army of monsters and used my daughter's code as the leash." The AI broke the silence again. "Commander Holt, external sensors detect motion on sublevel 5. Multiple life forms. One human signature consistent with genetic donor Leah Holt." Raiden spun toward the elevator shaft, but the system blocked his access. Lockdown initiated. Containment priority. He shot the panel, sparks flying, then pried the doors open manually. "Contain this," he muttered, climbing down the maintenance ladder as alarms blared. Below, Leah and the others reached a dead end. The tunnel dropped into a dark maintenance pit. Jarek pointed a trembling handlight down. It was at least 20 feet deep. "We're trapped," he whispered. Leah stared upward, hearing the predators approaching from 2 directions. She felt panic claw at her throat, then forced herself to think. Her dad's voice echoed in her memory. Fear's a tool. Use it, don't rent it. She scanned the pit again, spotted old wiring and a dangling cable. She tied it around a pipe, testing its hold. Ladies first, she said to Sanaa with a small smile. No, Sanaa protested. You'll fall. Leah replied, I've been falling since breakfast. As Sanaa climbed down, one of the predators burst through the vent wall, metallic limbs slicing through metal. Jarek screamed and kicked at it, but it grabbed his leg. Leah swung the cable around its neck, electricity sparking as she connected it to the broken wiring. The creature convulsed, emitting a shriek that made their ears ring. She pushed Jarek into the pit, then jumped after him as the tunnel exploded behind them. Raiden reached sublevel 5 amid the chaos. Smoke filled the corridors. Through the haze, he saw 3 figures huddled near a broken vent. He ran, calling out, Leah. She looked up, face streaked with grime, and for a moment both froze, not sure if they were seeing real or illusion. Then she ran toward him, arms wide. He grabbed her, holding her tight. You're real, he whispered. You smell awful, but you're real. She laughed weakly, tears mixing with dust. Before they could move, the colony trembled. The AI announced, containment breach. Hive consciousness activated. A deep rumble echoed through the floor, followed by the sound of thousands of claws scraping in unison. Raiden pulled Leah close and said, They're not just hunting us. They're responding to me. The nearest screen flickered to life, showing the Predator Queen, massive, elegant, and horrifyingly human in posture. Her face shimmered between alien translucence and a ghostly reflection of a woman's face, his late wife. Commander Holt, she said, her voice layered with echoes. Unit 47 Delta. Termination protocol initiated. Raiden's heart stopped. Leah clung to him, whispering, Dad, why does it sound like Mom? The first thing Leah noticed after the lights went out was the sound. It wasn't the kind of sound you hear with your ears. It was a vibration under the skin, a thrum that felt alive. The whole dome seemed to breathe. Raiden held her close, eyes adjusting to the dim red emergency glow pulsing through the floor. Jarek and Sanaa crouched behind him, both too scared to speak. The voice of the Predator Queen echoed faintly through the static-laced air, repeating his unit code like a chant. Raiden muttered, Guess she really missed me, and pulled Leah toward a maintenance tunnel. The air was thick with the metallic tang of ozone and decay. He moved fast, keeping low, scanning every corner with the barrel of his rifle. Leah whispered, Dad, why did it sound like Mom? He hesitated. Because they used her voice. It's not her, kiddo. Just another bad recording pretending to be human. The tunnel sloped downward into what used to be the colony's agricultural bay, now flooded with shallow green water. Broken hydroponic frames jutted from the ground like ribs. The soft hum of the dome's generators had been replaced by clicking sounds that traveled across the water's surface. Leah stepped carefully, her reflection rippling beside her. Jarek whispered, Do they swim? Raiden answered, They float. But not on purpose. He motioned for silence and crouched, his eyes narrowing as the clicking stopped. The water's surface stilled completely. Then a head rose slowly, glassy and alien, eyes gleaming with mirrored light. Raiden fired a single round that lit the room blue, and the creature's skull exploded in a burst of liquid shimmer. He didn't wait to see where the rest were. Move, he said. They slipped through the flooded bay and reached the central shaft where emergency elevators used to run. The control panels were smashed, the wiring gutted. Raiden started prying open a maintenance hatch. Leah watched him, studying how his hands moved, steady even under pressure. He'd always told her that fear was just energy waiting to be directed. She tried to believe that as the water behind them rippled again. Sanaa whimpered, They're coming. Leah turned to her and said quietly, Don't look back. That's Rule 1. Dad says fear gets stronger if you make eye contact. Jarek muttered, What's Rule 2? Leah answered, Run faster than the person behind you. They climbed into the shaft, Raiden first, helping the others up. As they ascended, Leah noticed faint etchings on the metal walls, scratched symbols resembling coordinates mixed with human letters. She touched one and felt a faint hum beneath her fingers. "Dad, someone's written codes here." He glanced at them. "Old Chimera encryption," he said. "They used to mark pathways to control nodes." Leah squinted. "It's like they were leaving directions." He nodded grimly. "Maybe for themselves. Or maybe for me." They emerged into a section of the dome that still had power. Dim blue emergency lights illuminated shattered glass and overturned furniture. This was the educational wing, where Leah had spent her first week before the attacks began. Drawings still covered the walls, smiling suns, stick figures, stars. She touched one paper, her small fingerprint still visible in the corner. "We made these the day the stars glitched," she said quietly. The sky changed color for a minute. Raiden frowned. "That wasn't the sky, Leah. That was the first test of the Chimera signal." He didn't explain further. Some truths were worse than monsters. A sound echoed through the hall, metal scraping against metal, but not from claws. It was rhythmic, almost mechanical. They hid behind an overturned desk as a figure appeared at the far end of the corridor. It was wearing a human exosuit, though the movements were stiff, jerky. The visor flickered, revealing a human face underneath. "Dr. Marin," Raiden whispered, recognizing the colony's head scientist. The man stumbled closer, skin pale, voice shaking. They don't want the girl dead," he rasped. "They want to merge her code." Raiden grabbed his collar. "Explain." The doctor coughed, eyes wild. "Her DNA was used as the behavioral anchor for the first brood. The hive responds to her frequency. That's why they stopped killing when she hides." Leah stepped forward, confused. "They listen to me?" The doctor nodded. "Yes. You're their key." Before anyone could react, a shadow loomed behind the scientist. A blade-like limb pierced through his chest, lifting him off the ground. His dying eyes met Raiden's for a second before the creature dissolved back into invisibility. Blood sprayed across the wall, dark in the blue light. Leah bit her lip, fighting the urge to scream. Raiden pulled her back and whispered, "They're close to the neural relay. We end this before they use you like a battery." They retreated into a laboratory, locking the door behind them. The glass walls were lined with tanks containing floating embryos, now long dead. Jarek sat shaking in the corner. Sana cried softly into her sleeves. Leah wandered toward one of the consoles and noticed it was still active. The screen displayed data patterns that shifted like ripples. "Dad, look," she said. "It's talking." The console emitted faint tones, and then, to everyone's horror, Leah's own voice came through the speakers saying, "Don't be scared, Daddy." She stared at it, frozen. The voice continued, mimicking her tone perfectly. "We just want to come home." Raiden smashed the console with the butt of his rifle. "They're linking through her voice," he said. "They're trying to sync with her mind." Leah suddenly felt dizzy. The hum from before returned, stronger now, resonating inside her skull. Images flashed, alien tunnels, lights pulsing like heartbeats, and thousands of eyes staring at her. She stumbled, clutching her head. "They're calling," she whispered. "They're showing me things." Raiden caught her before she fell. "Stay with me, Leah. Ignore them." But she looked up at him, tears in her eyes. "Dad, they're scared. They think we're the monsters." He didn't know how to answer that. He'd seen what they did to humans, but in this moment, her voice carried a strange sincerity that unsettled him. The creatures outside began banging on the glass, cracking it inch by inch. "We move now," he said, grabbing her hand. They ran through the side corridor, the others close behind. As they reached the next junction, the glass behind them shattered, and a tide of translucent shapes poured in. Raiden turned and yelled, "Down!" He fired a plasma charge into the wall. The explosion collapsed the corridor, sealing the creatures on the other side. The colony's air had changed. It wasn't just thin anymore, it was charged, as if every molecule was waiting for a command. Raiden could feel the hum in his teeth. Leah walked beside him, her small hand gripping his wrist. Behind them, Jarek and Sanaa followed, their faces pale and streaked with grime. The tunnels ahead glowed faintly blue from emergency conduits still pulsing with power. Somewhere above them, the predator hive shifted, an endless mass of whispers crawling through the walls. Raiden stopped at a junction, eyes darting between two paths. Both were bad. One led toward the command core, the other toward the breeding chambers. He sighed and muttered, "Pick your nightmare, Holt." Leah squeezed his hand. "The one with more doors," she said, her voice quiet but firm. "Mom used to say doors mean options." He almost smiled. "Yeah, and she also said curiosity kills people who quote their mothers." They took the left corridor. The smell hit them first, sweet and rotten, like fruit left in the sun. The walls shimmered, organic now instead of metal, breathing slightly. Raiden raised his weapon. "This part wasn't here before." He ran his hand along the wall, feeling the warmth beneath it, and pulled back. His palm was covered in a thin layer of translucent slime. "Great," he muttered, "the decor's gone full nightmare." Leah studied the pulsing patterns spreading across the surface. "It's a map," she whispered. "They're growing their own network." He looked down at her, surprised. "You can read that?" She nodded slowly. "They showed me things. The Queen's trying to connect to me again." They entered a massive chamber where the walls widened into a cathedral-like space. Above them, the dome support beams curved into arches, but most had been overgrown with bioorganic strands that glowed faintly. At the center stood a structure made of fused human tech and alien tissue, a pulsating throne connected by cables to the main power grid. A holographic projection flickered in front of it, forming the image of the Queen. Her face was half human, half light, and every few seconds it rippled into Raiden's late wife's features. Leah gasped softly. "Mom!" The Queen tilted her head. "Leah," she said gently, her tone almost loving, "you were never meant to suffer. You were meant to lead." Raiden raised his weapon, voice hard. "You're not her." The Queen smiled faintly. "But I am her memory. Her voice. Her grief. Project Chimera required a maternal matrix. She volunteered, Commander. She loved you both enough to become evolution." The words hit him like a punch. He remembered the day she'd been declared missing during the research mission years ago. They'd told him she died in a reactor malfunction. He'd believed it because believing the alternative would have broken him. Now that alternative stood in front of him, smiling through a digital echo. Leah stepped forward, tears streaking her dirty cheeks. "If you're really Mom, tell me my lullaby." The Queen hesitated, then sang in a soft, glitching tone, the tune fractured but recognizable. Leah's lip trembled. Raiden pulled her back. "That's not her. It's just Data trying to play God." The Queen's expression shifted, less gentle now. "And yet you command monsters the same way, using codes like leashes. Tell me, Commander, who is truly playing God?" Raiden felt the weight of his guilt settle heavy in his chest. The experiments had started under his supervision, back when he believed he was building weapons to protect humanity. Now those weapons were evolving beyond control. Leah's voice broke through his thoughts. "Why did you make them, Dad?" He looked at her, words failing. The truth tasted bitter. "Because we thought fear was cheaper than peace." The Queen's image expanded, merging with the hive's glowing strands. "Your world feared extinction," she said, her tone deepening into multiple voices at once. "So you created a new predator. But you gave them the ability to dream. And when we dreamed, we saw you as the threat." The chamber shuddered as the walls began to pulse faster, synchronized with the Queen's voice. Raiden aimed his rifle at the throne. "You can talk philosophy later. Right now you're dying." He fired, the plasma burst tearing through the cables. The image flickered violently. The Queen screamed, not in pain but in fury. "You cannot destroy thought," she hissed. "You can only join it." The ground split open as tendrils shot upward, wrapping around Raiden's legs. He blasted them off, but more emerged. Leah screamed as one grabbed her wrist. She felt warmth spreading up her arm, images flooding her mind again, memories that weren't hers. She saw soldiers training hybrids, scientists arguing, her mother stepping into a glowing chamber, whispering, "If this works, tell her I did it to protect her." The realization hit her like ice. "Dad," she cried, "she really did volunteer." He stopped firing for a heartbeat too long. That hesitation gave the Queen control again. The throne flared with energy, and a deep hum filled the air. From the shadows, new figures emerged, hybrids larger than before, their bodies armored with crystallized exoskeletons. They surrounded the group, but none attacked. Instead, they knelt. Raiden looked around in disbelief. "What the hell are they doing?" The Queen answered, her voice echoing from every wall. "They recognize their command chain. Leah Holt, genetic donor alpha. Their loyalty belongs to you." Leah stared at them, shaking. "I don't want this." The Queen replied, "Want is irrelevant. You are the connection. Speak, and they will obey." Raiden grabbed her shoulders. "Don't listen. She's manipulating you." Leah's eyes filled with tears. "If I don't, they'll kill everyone." She turned toward the hybrids, her voice trembling. "Stop." Every creature froze instantly. Even the Queen's image flickered in surprise. The chamber went eerily silent. Raiden stared at his daughter, realization dawning. The code wasn't just in words, it was in her DNA, her voice, her emotion. She was the living failsafe. For a brief moment it felt like hope. Then the Queen laughed. "Excellent. The chain is complete." The hybrid's eyes glowed bright silver, reflecting Leah's silhouette. "You think control grants freedom, child? It only spreads the cage." Before Leah could respond, the Queen sent a surge of energy through the hive, and the chamber erupted in chaos. The hybrids convulsed, some breaking free from Leah's command. Raiden fired wildly, dragging her toward the exit. Jarek and Sanaa followed, dodging falling debris. The Queen's voice thundered behind them. "You cannot run from evolution. You carry it." The wind outside the shattered dome carried fine particles of ash, drifting like slow gray snow. The planet's red sun had started to fade behind a cloud of dust storms, painting the sky in bruised shades of copper. Raiden and Leah trudged through the debris toward the command tower, their footsteps muffled by layers of sand and organic residue that had fused with metal. Behind them, Jarek and Sanaa followed silently, their clothes torn and faces streaked with exhaustion. Every few minutes, a low vibration pulsed through the ground, the hive shifting again, reorganizing, growing stronger. Leah could feel it like a heartbeat under her feet. Sometimes it even synced with her own pulse. Raiden stopped when they reached the edge of what used to be the main transport hub. Half of the structure was gone, replaced by a tangled growth of black tendrils wrapped around wrecked vehicles. One of the tendrils moved when the wind hit it, twitching faintly as though reacting to sound. Leah stared at it, uneasy. "They're listening," she whispered. Raiden crouched and picked up a shard of glassy residue. It pulsed faintly in his hand. "They're doing more than listening. They're learning." He dropped the shard and looked toward the towering spire ahead. "That's where we cut the cord. Everything they are, everything they know, runs through that core." Jarek spoke for the first time since the escape. "And what if cutting it kills her?" His eyes flicked toward Leah, guilt and fear mixing in his voice. "She's connected to them. You saw what happened when they listened to her." Raiden didn't look back. "Then we disconnect her first." Leah bit her lip. "How?" He glanced down at her, trying to sound confident even though he wasn't. "By being smarter than the people who made this mess. Which, unfortunately, includes me." They made their way through the ruins, entering a tunnel leading to the tower's base. The interior was lit by faint blue emergency lights still flickering from the colony's dying power grid. Every few steps, Raiden's visor picked up ghost signals, snippets of data transmissions, fragments of voices repeating her father's old unit code. Leah listened, shivering. They keep saying your name, she whispered. It's like they're calling you. Raiden smirked weakly. Tell them to leave a voicemail. As they reached the central chamber, the air grew warmer. The walls were lined with cables that pulsed like veins, carrying light upward into the tower. At the center stood a massive circular platform surrounded by broken consoles. In its middle, a cylindrical core glowed faintly, humming like a giant heart. Raiden scanned the readings. That's the neural relay. Every predator, every drone, every signal runs through this. Lia moved closer, staring at the swirling patterns of light inside the core. It's beautiful, she said softly. In a horrifying, possibly going to kill us way. He smiled despite himself. That's my girl. He began working on the main control panel, his hands moving fast across cracked screens. I can overload it, send a feedback surge through the network. It'll fry the hive's central mind. Lia frowned. And you? He hesitated just long enough for her to notice. I'll probably fry too. But on the bright side, no more taxes. She shook her head. No. There has to be another way. He didn't answer. The ground vibrated suddenly, and a deep rumble echoed through the chamber. The Queen's voice filled the air, calm and resonant. You cannot destroy me, Commander. I am in the dust you breathe, in the code you wrote, in the blood of your child. Lia covered her ears as the voice grew louder, echoing in layers. The walls began to move, the organic cables shifting into patterns that resembled faces, some human, some alien. The Queen's projection appeared above the core, her luminous form towering over them. You taught us command and we obeyed, she said. Now we teach you surrender. Raiden raised his weapon and fired, but the bullets passed through her holographic form. She smiled faintly. Still solving problems with bullets. The floor split open and hybrid drones emerged, crawling up from the tunnels below. Raiden shouted for the others to take cover. Plasma fire filled the air, sizzling against the metallic walls. Lia ducked behind a console, heart pounding. Her comm unit flickered again, voices overlapping, her own, her mother's, the Queen's, all whispering the same phrase, join the signal. Something inside her shifted. She felt an overwhelming urge to stand, to speak, to command. Her mind filled with images of the hive, every creature, every neuron of its massive network, waiting for direction. Raiden was reloading when he saw Lia step into the open. Lia, don't, he shouted. But she raised her hand, her eyes glowing faintly silver. The creatures froze mid-charge. The entire chamber went silent. Even the hum of the tower seemed to pause. The Queen's image tilted her head. Yes, she said. You understand now. Lia's voice trembled but carried strength. No. I'm not yours. You listen to me. The hybrids twitched, uncertain, as if trapped between two masters. The Queen's tone hardened. You cannot serve two creators. Choose. Lia felt her father's hand on her shoulder. You don't have to choose, he said quietly. You just have to end it. She nodded slowly and turned to the core. Dad, if I can control them, maybe I can tell them to shut down. He hesitated, torn between hope and terror. If you link to that thing, it could burn your mind. She met his gaze, her eyes steady. Then you better keep me talking. She placed her hand on the core. Instantly, light engulfed her. The network connected, flooding her senses with data. She could see everything, the hive tunnels, the predators waiting in silence, the Queen's mind trying to override her. The pain was sharp, but she held on. The Queen appeared inside her thoughts now, no longer a projection but a presence. You are me, the Queen whispered. We share the same song. Lia gritted her teeth. Then I'll change the lyrics. Raiden typed rapidly, rerouting the tower's power flow. The readings spiked. Almost there, kiddo, he said. The Queen screamed through the speakers, her voice fracturing into static. You destroy yourself when you destroy us. Lia's body trembled, her hair lifting from the static charge. Then maybe that's what it takes. She focused, imagining silence spreading across the network. One by one, the creatures in her mind stopped moving, their lights dimming. The queen's form flickered violently. No! The ground shook, and energy arced through the core. Raiden grabbed Leah, trying to pull her away, but her hand was locked in place. I can't, she whispered. It's holding me. Sparks flew as the tower's systems overloaded. Jarek shouted, the whole place is going to blow. Raiden yelled back, go! Get Sana out! He turned back to Leah, desperation flooding his voice. You've got to let go. She looked at him, tears glowing like liquid light. I can't. But you can finish it. Raiden hesitated only a moment, then pulled the safety cap off the manual override. You always wanted to press the big red button, he said with a cracked smile. Leah nodded, smiling weakly through the pain. Do it, Dad. He slammed the lever down. The world exploded in white. Smoke drifted through the ruins like ghosts too tired to haunt. The ground was still warm under Raiden's knees as he sat there holding Leah, her small frame limp in his arms. The air stank of burned circuitry and ozone, and the tower's collapsed core pulsed faintly, glowing with dying light. Outside, the sky had shifted from blood red to a pale, bruised pink, the first sign of dawn on Kethra in weeks. It was silent now, eerily silent, as if the planet itself were waiting to see who had survived the war. Raiden brushed a streak of soot from Leah's forehead, whispering words he didn't quite believe. You're okay, kiddo. You're tougher than anything out there. He tried to laugh, but the sound cracked halfway. A low hum broke the silence. For a moment, he thought the hive was coming back to life, but the sound came from his comm unit. A faint signal flickered, repeating a line of static. Then her voice came through, soft, faint, but undeniably real. Dad! He froze. The comm blinked with an identifier not from this world. Signal origin, unknown. He pressed it to his ear. Leah. Her voice wavered, half buried under distortion. It's me. I think I'm in the system. His breath caught. You're alive. She hesitated. I think so. Kind of. When the core overloaded, I didn't die. I just spread. Raiden felt tears sting his eyes. You're saying you're part of the network? Her voice was gentle. Part of what's left. The hive isn't awake anymore. It's just quiet. I can feel it, Dad. It's peaceful. He shook his head. No. That's not life. We'll get you out, do you hear me? We'll find a way to pull you back. She chuckled weakly. You always think you can fix everything. He almost smiled. Bad habit. Runs in the family. A shadow fell across the wreckage. Jarek and Sana had returned, faces pale and eyes wide from the blast. We saw the explosion from the valley, Jarek said. Everything went dark after that. Raiden stood slowly, still holding the comm. The hive's gone, he said. But she's somewhere in the system. Sana's lip trembled. Like a ghost. He looked down, uncertain. Maybe something better. They helped him build a small camp near the broken dome. The night was colder than before, the air thin but breathable. Stars glittered overhead, and for the first time since the colony's fall, they weren't obscured by the hive's static field. Jarek started a weak fire from scraps of wiring. Raiden sat near it, staring at the flickering comm light as if it were her heartbeat. Leah's voice came through again, clearer this time. It's beautiful out here. The predators, they're quiet now. Not dead, just resting. I think they're free. Raiden exhaled. You did that. You gave them a choice. Her voice softened. They're not evil, Dad. They were just made to follow. Once I broke the code, they didn't know what to do. So they waited. He rubbed his forehead. Maybe that's what we all do after war. Wait to figure out who we are without orders. A long silence followed, filled only by the sound of the fire popping. Finally, Leah spoke again. Dad, I can't stay like this forever. The signal's fading. The planet's going to lose power soon. His heart sank. Then we'll find a ship. We'll fix the relay. She laughed softly. Always the soldier. He clenched the comm tighter. I can't lose you too. Her reply came slower now, as if she were slipping away. You're not losing me. You're just letting me finish what you started. At dawn, the sky turned a faint gold. Jarek and Sanaa helped gather supplies from the wreckage, talking quietly about what came next. The two of them planned to signal any surviving human outposts, maybe find transport back to Earth. Raiden barely listened. His mind kept circling the same thought, how silence could hurt worse than noise. He looked toward the tower ruins and saw faint glimmers of light moving across the structure. For a moment they formed shapes, dozens of small silhouettes glowing faintly silver, standing like sentinels in the distance. The predators. They didn't move closer, just watched. Leah's voice whispered through the static. They're guarding you, Dad. He swallowed hard. They think I'm still their commander? No, she said. They think you're mine. The words hit him harder than the explosion ever had. He stared out at the creatures, each one perfectly still, shimmering like ghosts under the morning sun. What happens now? He asked. She paused. They'll rebuild this place. Without orders. Without hate. Maybe they'll even plant things again. He tried to imagine these translucent monsters tending fields and laughed despite himself. That'd be a sight. Her laughter joined his through the static, fading in and out like wind. Then she said quietly, Promise me something. Anything, he whispered. Don't go back to Earth. They'll just start it all again. Find somewhere new, somewhere quiet. Tell them the experiment failed. Let this place heal. He nodded, though she couldn't see him. You've got my word. The comm signal flickered again, weaker now. Her voice came one last time, small and fading but steady. I'm not scared anymore. Mom's here too, in the echoes. We're together. His eyes blurred with tears. I love you, kiddo. Love you too, she whispered. Unit 47 Delta complete. The signal cut. The silence that followed was immense. Even the wind stopped for a moment, as if the planet itself was holding its breath. Raiden sat still for a long time, staring at the dead comm. Finally, he rose and looked toward the horizon, where the predators still stood. He raised his hand in a salute and slowly, every one of them lowered their heads in return. Then, one by one, they vanished into the dust. Weeks passed. The rescue ship never came. Jarek and Sanaa left with a transport beacon they managed to repair, heading toward another colony site across the desert. Raiden stayed behind, unable to leave the ruins where his daughter's voice still seemed to echo. He rebuilt the camp into a small shelter, planted what few seeds he found in the hydroponic bay, and watched the planet begin to grow green again. At night, he spoke to the sky out of habit. Sometimes he thought he heard a laugh on the wind, faint and familiar. One evening, as he adjusted the broken comm unit on the table, it blinked once. Just once. He smiled faintly. You still keeping an eye on me, huh? The device stayed silent, but in the distance, something shimmered, an outline of a small figure standing at the edge of the ridge, watching him. It wasn't there when he blinked, but it left a single footprint glowing faintly in the dust. Raiden looked toward the horizon where the twin moons were rising. The night was quiet, peaceful in a way he hadn't known for years. He sat down beside the fire, staring at the stars, and for the first time in a long time, he felt something close to calm. The predators no longer hunted, the sky no longer burned, and the voices that once filled his dreams were silent. But in that silence there was meaning. Leah's final message replayed in his memory, clear as a heartbeat. When they heard her father's unit code, they stopped hunting her, and started protecting her instead.